Something about your energy right now is embracing neutrality. That doesn't mean that you don't care or that you don't have strong opinions on certain matters. But I feel like when it comes to the outcome of your desires, you have learned how to master this state of being neutral about it. That doesn't erase the desire, it just means that with or without it, internally, it's a state of homeostasis. So you're very balanced. We've been talking about that energy a lot. And I kind of understand why we've been drawn to talking about this so much. And I'll get there in a sec. But you've just found this place internally where no matter what storm comes your way, sure, it will rock the boat. It will affect you. It will bring out emotions. Those are all still there. You're not a numb individual, but you are a neutral individual at this point. And it feels like when these things roll in, your anchor point is so strong that even if the boat rocks, it's never going to tip over or drift away. And I just feel like you've been tested a lot in the past few years with things that you thought were going to go your way or things that you thought were like, okay, this is good, I'm going to have success with this. And it was like, nope, you got to wait. You got to wait even more. Or you got to redirect this. And I feel like there was this existential struggle going on for a long time. But something about this struggle and scarcity mentality seems like it's been really disrupted this year in 2026. This is a timeless message though, so whenever you find this, I feel like it's relevant, but I think it's also important to talk about what's going on in the current moment, astrologically speaking. But as we know, everything works in cycles with astrology, so even if you're finding this at a different time, it might still be relevant for what's going on. But anyways, I feel like you've disrupted this thinking pattern first and foremost of, man, why does it always feel like I can't get what I want? It always feels like the good things in my life are ruined by something. Like I'm getting the energy of like one rotten apple spoils the crop. And it kind of feels like that negative thinking was spreading and you almost were not conscious of it fully because what you were conscious of was how you were feeling. And that was kind of the first stage of things. So it's not that that was bad to be aware of your emotions, but I think, confirmation burp, the way that you felt your emotions created almost like its own reality rather than being able to almost like pull yourself outside of it for a second and see other possibilities of what might be true or what could change out of this, right? And so I feel like with this past month of July and the Mercury retrograde in Cancer, like, because I feel like before that, like, especially the months of May and June, I feel like those were really good months for a lot of people. And you guys might have had some small, like, mini breakthroughs, or like, it wasn't like a full breakthrough, but it was like, oh, I got my foot in the door kind of thing. And from there, you've almost had to kind of fight a little bit to maintain your position. And when I use the word fight, I don't mean like, again, like in that struggle energy, but more so that you've had to, it's kind of like when you're holding a plank, right? It doesn't look like you're doing a whole lot. Like you're not running super fast. You're not lifting a bunch of heavy weights, but you're just holding yourself like in that place. And I feel like that's kind of more of the fight that you've been going through in July of like, can you maintain this? Can you maintain this equilibrium? Can you stay afloat even when there are past triggers, even when people do really crazy things? Because that's always how life is, right? There's always this law of chaos going on just as much as there is the law of order. And I feel like you've learned how to navigate those two realms and how to alchemize chaos into inspiration, especially when it comes to your creativity, okay? But also motivation to get things done and to, you know, not emulate that chaos in what you can control in your internal world, right? Like, yeah, the world around me is chaotic. This person is acting crazy, but my home doesn't have to be a chaotic nightmare, right? The way that I go about my routine and daily motions doesn't have to be all over the place. Like I can still move intentionally through my days. And I feel like it's almost like simple. And I think one of the episodes recently we talked about how sometimes things are simpler than we realize when it comes to looking for that breakthrough. It doesn't mean that they're easier in the sense that you don't do anything and it just comes to you, but it does mean that sometimes it's like the formula itself is simpler and it's really just about the consistency and the maintenance. And one thing I feel like Venus going through Virgo has really instilled in us like a drill sergeant is that consistency, that dedication, that realization that if we want good things to grow, we truly have to show up every single day and water them. Some days more than others, right? Some days we need a break from watering. Other days we need to focus more on pruning or fertilizing or, harvesting even, right? But there's this kind of like well-oiled machine that I feel like you've crafted throughout this month of July, even if it feels like you've just been kind of sitting in the shop with that machine and making sure it's good to go and haven't actually taken it out on the road yet to test it. You've made a lot more progress than what meets the eye, both for maybe even yourself, but also just publicly, visibly. And I think this is a really important place to be in going into the month of August. We're already 3 days into the month of August, and I'm really feeling the energy rising given that we are in eclipse season now. Ta-da! Just like that, we're back here in eclipse season. And I said this last time and I'll say it again, that I feel like this whole year feels like an eclipse in a way, and especially the second half of 2026, because we've had this Mercury retrograde in Cancer, which has led us straight into the eye of the eclipse. And the second and final eclipse of the series will happen on August 28th, I believe, 28th or 29th, depending on the time zone. And then 2 days after, on the last day of this month, Venus will be entering the pre-shadow of her retrograde, right? So we have Mercury retrograde, eclipse season, Venus retrograde themes starting up, even though she is not going retrograde till October. The themes and thread lines are going to be introduced to us. And then after the Venus retrograde, we start getting ready for Mars retrograde, which happens in the start of 2027. But again, we'll be in that pre-shadow energy as we close out the year. I know when we hear the word retrograde, that can be like this like panic alarm that goes off. And I blame pop astrology for that because sure, retrogrades can definitely bring things in that like, it's kind of like, what did the cat bring in? Like, I didn't want to deal with that, or I wasn't expecting to deal with that. But it's not always like this dooms, like, I don't know. I'm just so tired of those kind of fear narratives, right? And I'm seeing them all around in the media, even in the spiritual community, with people who mean well and who want to deliver, channeled messages. It's not that their messages aren't channeled, but they're channeling them from a place of fear and like retrograde, like, oh, like this is what you need to do to prepare, like it's going to be so bad, like, and I just don't want this here to be that kind of space, right? So I'm not telling you guys these things to say, get ready, like this is going to be a bad, end to the year. Like, I'm not meaning it like that. But I think at the same time, we can all feel that the intensity is starting to pick up in this month of August. And I think what I'm trying to communicate to you guys is that this intensity isn't necessarily just dissipating and then things kind of like the dust settles and it's business as usual. It's giving more of like the volume is getting turned way up, the intensity is getting turned way up. And because you've been putting in all of this work of learning how to be consistent and take care of yourself and maintain things maybe in a smaller way, it now feels like with this expansive energy, you are ready to keep up with things that are very visible and bigger. And I hesitate to even use the word bigger because they might be just as big, but they might just be more glamorous, I heard, or like more like things that other people would pay attention to and not just you. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And there's excitement, there's nervousness, there's all of it. But that's why I feel like this state of neutrality is so crucial right now. And I feel like every single test you've been through, it's almost like been chipping away at you, like carving this mold of both impermeability, like no one can mess with you, no one can throw you off your path, but also extreme adaptability. And I feel like that's also been something that Mars and Gemini, and also just realize that all of these planets, Venus, Mars, and Mercury, have really been interconnected in this past month, because we've had Venus squaring Mars, and both Venus and Mars are in Mercury ruled signs, and we've had Mercury going backwards in Cancer. Now Mercury is moving forward, but they're still moving at a slower pace than usual, right? That will be changing soon, right? Mercury's going to exit the post shadow in the next week or so. But anyways, I was going to say about Mars, I think Mars in Gemini has really taught us how to embrace like two almost competing ways, or two competing approaches, how to balance these things, to get some motor power going, right? To get a little bit of momentum. And it truly can feel like sometimes we're questioning a little bit, like, oh, am I spreading myself too thin? Am I trying to do this and that? And I should really just be picking one over the other. But again, I feel like that connects to a scarcity kind of mentality, where in the past you were used to having a very short bandwidth. And maybe that was because you didn't know how to protect your energy, and your cup was constantly being drained by all this other stuff, even if it seemed like it was fun and positive stuff in your life. But now I just feel like you've kind of had a lot of like third eye awakening and clarity moments come in, especially over this past spring. I heard the spring season was really significant with that and clarifying things. And I feel like now you understand that you don't have to choose. You can have your cake and eat it too, in the positive way, right? Because I feel like that expression can carry that negative connotation. But again, this connects to the message. I feel like we have to reclaim things and put our own positive spin, or even if it's not like super positive, like put our own creative and unique spin on things. And I feel like that ability at this time is going to be generating some sort of magnetism. I almost said magic, but I didn't want to say it because it seems like magic could be interpreted in a lot of ways. And I feel like a more specific word is magnetism. Like you are becoming such a magnet right now. And it's not just because you've sat there every day and thought like, yay, I want good things. I want love. I want money. Like sometimes it's like, it's not that simple, right? Like I feel like you've gone through the trenches. And I think about like how when you like sharpen a knife, right? Like you have to like put effort into doing that, and you have to like actually cut through something again, not cut through it, but like you have to like, put the blade up against something to like get that sharpness. And I feel like you've been spending a lot of time making preparations in that way. And now it's kind of something is opening. I said this last time, it's like a levee is opening and all of this water energy has been rushing through. And I feel like now you see that this whole time you've actually been, I heard, building a boat. I know now I'm getting like the story of Noah's Ark, which is kind of funny. But I feel like you've been making all these preparations and you haven't really known why. Like just like Noah was told by God to, build this whole ark and get these animals, male and female of each kind. And there was all of these like downloads that he was getting from God, and he could have easily just buckled under the societal pressure of like people judging him and like being like, what is this guy even doing? But he trusted that his intuition and his relationship with God was so strong that he was able to see the vision and carry it out and basically save humanity and not really humanity actually, but like living creatures of this earth, right? And so I feel like there's also been this kind of like hero's journey kind of energy. I wrote this Oh, wait, no, that was actually what I was speaking on in the last episode. I know I keep referencing the last episode, but there's a lot of interconnected themes here. But anyways, I feel like he was on a hero's journey. So maybe that needed to come out so we could clarify a little bit more what that meant. The archetype of the hero of like, I think of also like the father and the son and like these epic Greek poems, like the Odyssey. Not that I'm like an expert in the Odyssey, but I just think of these kind of archetypes of the son, the hero. I also was channeling like Gryffindor energy. This is all very Leo coded stuff, right? And the Cancer energy, it exists in a very like private, kind of almost even secretive place. I mean, that's water signs for you. And now it just feels like there's a lot of light bulbs suddenly flickering on that were not on before. And you're just seeing so much of your power. And it comes with a certain heaviness, though, because there's been these realizations where you've seen ways in which you've used your power in a way that was manipulative, or you haven't actualized your power. Like you didn't step into it. You were afraid of it at different times. And when I also say like manipulative too, it doesn't mean that in the moment you're thinking, I'm this evil genius, I'm going to manipulate everyone and be powerful. Like, that's not what I mean. A lot of times I think when people manipulate situations, they don't realize they're doing it because they're really just wanting control and they're wanting to feel better about themselves inside, but they don't know how to do that work without it being about the outside world, right? So I feel like that's a lesson you had to learn, and you're really just sitting on your throne, I heard right now. Like the lights are turning on and you realize like, oh, I'm actually coming out on top. And I feel like some of you guys are like flabbergasted. You're like, wait, after all this, like I thought that I was taking a time out. I thought that I was maybe slowing down. I thought I was getting ready to maybe like not give up on something, but kind of like lower my expectations or something like that, right? And it's like all of a sudden when you reach that moment, you're crowned the queen or the king or royalty. Like I'm getting that energy. So it's really interesting. And I feel like that neutrality thing, that state of detachment, law of detachment, neutrality, that's exactly what you had to like, and you still have to have this, right? Like you still have to be neutral about it. It can't go to your head. So I feel like that's why this has been the lesson before anything else could be gifted to you. I specifically heard the word gifted. So some of you guys could be about to receive some sort of gift that really either symbolizes a deep change or actually changes your life. Okay? It's the type of gift that's not like something you could just go into like a store quick and buy. It's like a gift that, I don't know, there's just a lot of symbolicism in it. And or it is actually like a really big gift. Like it costs a lot of money kind of thing. But it has the ability to change your life. So anyways, that actually leads me perfectly into the next thing I wrote down, which is a channeled song actually by this artist Keb Mo. I think his full name is like Kevin Moore, but his artist name is Keb, Keb Mo. And it's a song that randomly just came on shuffle, which I love when that happens, and it's like a really good song that you connect with. And his song is called One Day Away. And the lyrics say, "You may be closer than you think to your miracle. It might be one day away that makes the difference." And I just couldn't help but listen to it and feel like it had a lot of the eclipse energy in it, right? Now, this is our first eclipse we're coming up upon with the new moon in Leo on August 12th. But still, the nodes have not transitioned into Aquarius in Leo. They're sitting at the 0th degree of Pisces and Virgo. So I'm going to talk more about the nodes in a sec. And now I remember, oh yeah, I was going to talk to you guys more about the Venus retrograde thing too. Because, okay. ADD. Sorry, there's so many messages coming through right now. It's crazy. Okay, so the nodes, right? We're coming up on this new moon in Leo. The nodes are getting ready to make this big transition, but I think it's really significant that we're having this new moon, the first new moon eclipse in Leo of the series, without the nodes making that transition. And that was also the case for our new moon in Aquarius back in February, middle of February. Like, I think it was like February 17th of last year. And again, the nodes had yet to, they were even further away from that transition, right? But we're even closer now. We're just a few days out. And so it feels like, with it being this combination, like a hybrid of Leo, Aquarius axis, fixed sign, fixed yang sign, like masculine energy, paired with this very like soft, mutable, feminine energy of Pisces and Virgo. It's almost like creating this vortex of stuff from realms and timelines that don't exist in this one, like multi-dimension theory kind of stuff going on, where you can literally, like, your imagination and your abilities to picture things in your mind can actually pull them out from other realms and place them in this one. Like, that's the level of power I feel like we have at this time. And I feel like you guys have always known that you've had this kind of ability, or that there would be, and not or, but that you've had this ability, and there would come a time where you would actually see it unfold in a way that kind of blew your mind. Like, whoa, this is exactly what I saw in my dreams, both daydreams and actual sleeping dreams. And now it's all happening. And I feel like this eclipse season, this month of August, it's like a precursor to that energy, because you are stepping into power, and I feel like things are changing and evolving, right? But because we have this eclipse, and then we have a Venus retrograde, and then we have a Mars retrograde, and and then the Mars retrograde like is happening during the next eclipse season, right? It feels like it's just kind of like a ripple effect, like da 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 da. So yes, a lot of turning points and big things are happening now, but it's not all just being handed to you either, right? There might be one really important gift, but that's just the beginning, is what I heard. And you're going to have to work for it a little bit, I heard, with these retrogrades coming up. Like, you're going to have to do the inner work still and reevaluate some things. And you might be slowed down again at some point, or you might be kind of like, okay, now I have to go and do that. But listen to me. August, this month, these eclipses, they're giving you that first taste of just how magical your energy really is. And it's not because you sit there with your candles and just pull a few cards and you cast spells. Like, it's not that kind of magic. Okay? It's a magic of hard work and a labor of love, because that's the key ingredient here. In addition to the balance, it's also, now it's like, the balance is like kind of like the basic thing you need just to stand up, right? You've mastered that. Now you're in an energy where you can actually hold how much love and passion and creative forces that you have. And I feel like this retrograde in Cancer has been kind of like holding something in, like holding it back. Like, it's not time yet. It's not time yet to express this. It's not time to put this out in the world. It's not time to express my feelings for this person. It's not time. And it's like hard, because there's a part of you that's like, well, this is so big. I don't know how long I can just hold this in. I don't know how long I can just like this has to come out at some point. And I feel God being like, I hear you and I agree with you, but you have to trust me in this. It just hasn't been that time yet. Right. And some of you guys might have been a little disappointed because you had this kind of like idea for what the summer was going to look like. And Maybe it looked a little bit more basic in some ways, or it involved a lot more inner work than you had thought. And just a quick side note, sometimes I think that we associate inner work with the winter season, but I also think it's very, very much a part of the summer season as well. And whatever honking is going off right now in the background, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's definitely confirmation. So yeah, I think that now that's what does feel like it's changing, is that August is creating some sort of opening for this to start to pour out. And it's a type of opening where it still feels like this is in a controlled way. I hesitate to even say that though, because it does feel like there's a part of it that does feel like wild and unexpected because of the eclipse energy. But I guess the best way I can put it is that this is just the beginning. This is just a start for things to start really showing themselves and making themselves clear in your life. Because I feel like you've been in this like energy where like you've gained this relationship with your intuition where you can really start to trust it now. And it's like, okay, I trust you so much that I don't always need to see things right away. And so I feel like, again, that brings me back to like the state of neutrality that you've been in. And from there, it's like, that's just when you're ready. When you're neutral about the outcome, that's when you're ready. And sometimes you can't force that neutrality either, right? Like you have to work through the emotions first. That's another lesson that Cancer energy has taught us. So I think I want to wrap up there. There's definitely a lot more that we could get into right now, but I feel like this is a good stopping point for us. And now the honking has stopped as well. But more things I want to get into with you guys is I want to talk more about the nodal shift, and I want to talk more about the nodes in general and how their energy plays out with the eclipses, but also just in general what the nodes do. I want to really dedicate some time to talking about that. I also want to speak more about these 3 planets changing signs kind of back to back in the second week of August, which is Venus. Actually, this will happen this week, is Venus going into Libra, which that's, okay, it keeps bringing us back full circle, which is kind of a message in itself. But that's the thing about balance that I feel like why we've been getting prepared for that, because not only is Venus going into Libra, but this is a big deal because she enters the sign that she will be partially spending her retrograde in. Like she's starting the retrograde in Scorpio, but she's going back into Libra. So this balance thing is, I think, really, really key. And it will continue to be a theme for us this fall, but also at the end of the summer. And then on August 9th, we have Mercury leaving Cancer and going into Leo, which even though a little bit beforehand, Mercury goes out of post shadow, that's Mercury's entrance into Leo, I think really heralds this feeling of like, okay, like we're not staying sticky and like emotional, and we're not staying in the dark. Like, ta-da, here we are out in the light, you know? And then Mars will go into Cancer on August 11th. So a lot of shifts are coming up right before the eclipse happens, which is already a big shift in itself. But the tone, the vibe, we definitely get like a vibe switch in August for sure. It's that kind of month, okay? So I'm going to end there. I feel like there's a lot that is going to keep changing. So I feel like these episodes I feel like in July, not that they were like all the same or we talked about the same stuff, but it was a very dense energy and we had to really get into a lot of layers. Now it just feels like these episodes, it's like one day we might be talking about this, the next day we might be talking about that. I couldn't even say that right because I'm like, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm sensing coming up. So just a fair warning for you guys, if it's a little too ADD and all over the place, that's going to be the vibe this month. But it's not all over the place in maybe the way that you've been used to. It feels like it's It's only all over the place because it's a big transition this month. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm going to stop there because I feel like I'm not making sense anymore. And I also need to eat because I'm very hungry. Sending you guys all a lot of love, a lot of strength, a lot of radiance, exuberance, and until next time.